Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, live show number 269.
Hey, Lauren, kill your video.
Go ahead, Ed. Oh,
kill your video, Lauren. Yeah, kill your video because you're frozen.
We can't hear you, buddy.
Okay,
you may need to restart your computer there, bud.
Try turning it off now and again.
Yeah,
so for everyone who's watching, happy Friday.
This is the first ever episode, which is why we have teething problems, clearly.
Yep. Actually, I mean, we're bringing it back old school style, back when every episode launched with technical difficulties. So with us today, we have Stuart Butler from Fuel Travel. I'm Ed with Flip2, and we have the lovely Adele. And Adele, let's talk about your new thing, because I don't think we've done that enough.
Oh, yes. Well, after 20 years at the Library Hotel Collection, I left my office on one Friday thinking I was going to come back on Monday, and then all this craziness broke loose, and suddenly, I realized that maybe my plan for what I was going to do.
I have no bandwidth.
What's that?
Don't worry, keep going, Adele.
Lauren. My plan for the future suddenly got sped up, and I got to do or launch what has been my dream for a long time. For 15 years, people have been asking me, how do you get so many 5-star reviews? How do you stay on the top of TripAdvisor? We had the company had a 96.1 guest satisfaction ranking, which outshined all of the luxury brands that are iconic that everybody knows. How on earth did you do it? And you know what? It wasn't easy, but through trial and error, we developed a system that works like magic. And so now I'm having fun being able to tell the world about, not only how to get great reviews but how to lead a team that's so happy and engaged and feeling such a part of a bigger vision. And I think that anybody can do this. So I'm so happy to be able to share it. And I've been lucky that, like the other day, I was able to speak to the HSMA New York chapter, and I hope to speak to some other chapters and been on some podcasts. So it's been a pleasure sharing all my tips for 5-star reviews.
That's awesome. And you're just full of change with the move and everything too. You're now
yes, to be
relocated,
so warm and green.
All the other Yankees have moved down to South Carolina.
For the first couple of weeks, Stuart, I thought that everybody in South Carolina was from New Jersey because everybody. But we finally started meeting a few people from New York as well.
Some locals for sure.
Yeah, I mean, up until, COVID-related migration, the popular thing to do would be to actually move from New York to South Florida first and then move halfway back. And
yes.
Yeah, we call that a halfback.
My parents say they're halfbacks, and she just said, you're just getting to the end because, service in Florida is challenging, and there's a lot of Southern hospitality here, and that's actually where I came from. Not originally, but I moved to Texas for 10 years during my hospitality training years, and so that's always stayed in my heart. But for anybody listening who's wondering if I could share some of the tips with you right now, if you'd like.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the first most important thing, if you really want to expedite your recovery, is you have to appreciate how important your reputation is. Because if you are just selling a bed and a bath, you're just a commodity. You have to have an experience that exceeds the others in order to, because this is just a very small marketplace right now. There's a very limited amount of people who are traveling. So if you want to get more than your fair share and not wait until, tourism is back full, but actually want to go out and capture people's imaginations so that they stay at your hotel rather than somewhere else, you need to be sharing your vision with your customers, but also with your team. Because what happens a lot in hotel marketing is that we sit in the executive office and we have a vision for what our service is, and then they go to TripAdvisor after they see the ad or see the social media post or get a sales call from your team, and there's a gap between what you're saying and what the guests actually say is happening. So imagine what you want people saying on those reviews and be that hotel. I actually had, as the very first step in the transformation for the library hotel collection, I actually called together the GMs and the directors of sales and reservations managers, etc., and had them write, what do they want people saying in detail about the experience of being at the hotel. And then we went and wrote out all of the journey touch points, like calling us on the phone and asking a question, or sending us an email and how we respond, making the reservation, coming to the front desk, the room orientation, every single little touch point for that customer journey, and asked the team, since they're experts in guest satisfaction, what are the things that you say and do that really light people up whenever you say them? So it's like when somebody comes to the hotel and says, "Welcome to the hotel. Oh, we're so excited to have you here. Is it are you coming to celebrate something special?" This is really making somebody feel so appreciated and cared for and respected. And I'll tell you what, I have walked into dozens and dozens of hotels where the front desk looks up and says, yes, or checking in, and no welcome, no enthusiasm, no excitement. And you have to remember that every people are excited to travel, and they want to have a wonderful experience, and you have to be excited for them. And that, what I just said, is what I call a best practice.
Yeah,
So
and it's important to point out too that, the check-in process especially, okay, it is the defining tone for the trip. When you look at and really pick through, what made someone unhappy, check-in experience is such a potential friction point, but also a potential opportunity to set the tone. If you make someone mad or they feel dissatisfied at check-in, they're going to be more likely to look at everything else in their experience with you through a critical lens versus someone who has a really nice, or even quite honestly, there's nothing wrong with a check-in that isn't out of the ordinary, like, hey, it was exactly what I wanted. It was efficient, friendly. I can move through. Those people are going to be less likely to look at everything else through a critical lens. They're going to look at it through a lens of, great, I'm on vacation or I'm here for work, whatever it is, and they'll move on. But if you deconstruct a lot of reviews, you tend to find that there is an element of a problem at check-in on the negative ones. I mean, do you see that too, Stuart?
Yeah, and I mean, anecdotally for myself, I just imagine, especially when I've gone on family vacations, you're probably at your highest stress point when you get to the hotel, right? Especially if you're traveling for a long distance with kids in the car for hours, and everyone's tired, everyone's hangry. You're not in a good place. You're probably having a few disagreements with the spouse. So going into that lobby, you need a little chance to reset, to refocus. Like you said, change your lens and your perspective, And that is going to be that point at which your entire trajectory is going to go that way or that way. So yeah, it's
as a traveler who, depending on what my trip reason is, I have different expectations. Things I've seen that I really like are front desk team that don't force me to go through everything. They give me choices on what I can consume. Those are my favorite, because there are times I want to hear about absolutely everything. And then there are literally times I just want to go take a shower because I've been on a flight for 18 hours.
Exactly. It's not really personalized, right?
Right.
And yes. It's so true. Yeah. Teaching your team how to be sensitive to the individual and what they're going through and what they need right now. I was at a restaurant the other day. I think it's called Hall's Chop House, very, very highly rated. And, they have an amazing guest experience. And the waiter said to me, the steak is, the best way to make a steak is the way the customer wants it. So you really have to listen.
Except, I will say, for a customer who orders a filet mignon well done, that there is a point where the customer's not always right. And customers who order filet mignon well done are wrong.
It's their right to be wrong.
Yep.
That makes them if being wrong makes them happy, that's good luck to them.
Yep.
Yeah. That Hall's, that restaurant, that waiter said to me, if somebody mentions that, like it's somebody's birthday and the person says, she really likes this kind of ice cream, just get an idea of what she likes. They actually ran across to the store across the street to get a pint of that ice cream to put on top of their cake, even though it wasn't theirs. Or they'll run across to the restaurant next door to get a key lime pie because they don't have key lime pie on their menu if that's what they want. Mm-hmm. And they said the smartest thing to me, it doesn't matter what the guest spends, it matters that they come back. Yeah. And I think that in this COVID time, the hotels that have excellent 5-star reviews saying that the experience went really well, it was special, it was worth it, I'm glad I did it, will encourage more people to travel. On the other hand, it is going to hurt everybody if I saw the chef, in the kitchen making food without a mask.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's the other thing I think would be valuable to talk about, because, we don't want to give away all your secret sauce on how to set the foundation. However, I think a lot of good places right now are, one of the things they're really wrestling with is how to handle the poor reviews that are completely out of their control. I've been hearing it a lot where hotels that generally are just super on point, they're getting dinged because people are annoyed with the things that are COVID related restrictions. And, and I'm less talking about the ones that, the obvious is make sure your website sets the right expectation, make sure your team sets the right expectation. I'm more talking about and I apologize to any Karens out there, but the Karens that are just mad that the world is different. Do you have any thoughts on how to handle a situation where, you did everything right, but the person's just mad about COVID?
You have to just do the best that you can do, but you really should take this as an opportunity to, flex your guest satisfaction muscles and just say, hey, I'm going to do the very best I can. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep trying different ways of learning to deal with the situation. And if I find that I was able to get over a challenge effectively, I'm going to share that with my team. Maybe they can use it as well. But one thing that I know for sure is we've had policies at hotels that are not always to the delight of every customer, but we may have reasons for them. For example, safety checks in the rooms, after was it MGM Grand, issue that they
the Las Vegas shooting, yeah.
Las Vegas shooting. It was, most hotels said, okay, we can't have real privacy, but we're going to make a security check. If we don't see a guest after a day or two, or the guest has asked for no housekeeping, no entry for a day or two, we're going to make a security check and peek in the room to see, if things are okay. And if you present that what you're doing is for their, really feel their pain, really in your heart, see what you can do to get them from that mindset over the bridge and be their ambassador to happiness on the other side. Mentally, don't be, I'm the front desk and I have this plexiglass and you're on the other side of me. Mentally, come around and be shoulder to shoulder with them and help bring them over here. Look, I understand this is a difficult situation, but we're all trying to work together to protect you and make sure everything is okay, because unfortunately sometimes bad things happen, and we do this for the safety of our guests because we care about you. And if you just keep saying it and trying it in different ways, you're going to lower their defenses eventually. Hopefully. And believe me, I've turned around a lot of people.
So we've now been graced with the presence of one Lily Mockerman from TCRM and many other ventures. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Lauren is having a bit of technical difficulty, so we are running the asylum now. I'm the captain now. And actually, it's perfect. Now there's a quorum of more people. I did want to let you all know I am going to have to sign off soon because I could only do the first 30 minutes today. Stuart, what have you seen in your market that's worked really well dealing with people disgruntled by COVID strategy? Have you seen anyone doing a good job on recovering from that?
Yeah, it is all over the place, and different folks are doing. The expectations are just wacky right now, right? Because you got people that are totally understanding of the situation, and you got people that come in and expect things to be normal. So I will say, and you kind of touched on this, that setting expectations before arrival is the critical component. Like if you can do a better job of that, and if you look at the sentiment studies we've been carrying out, consistently we ask people that have traveled, what was communicated to you and what would you like to be communicated to you next time you travel? And there's such a misalignment between the two. People want to know before they arrive what the protocols are, what's open, what's not, all this stuff. Most of the frustration is coming from people being blindsided. Most of the frustration is them arriving to find out that a pool is closed or a local restaurant that they love is closed. It's the unexpected that you want to try to avoid right now because people need certainty because there's so much uncertainty going on. So if you can do a better job of not just putting on your website, but making sure your pre-arrival messages are very comprehensive, now is probably a time to be sending 2 or 3 pre-arrival messages so that they're really reinforcing that messaging. But to Adele's point, once they get on property and they're unsatisfied, to me, the biggest thing is, one, you've got to treat everyone as an individual and understand that their unique situation is unique and special to them, and that whatever their life has happened that day is going to be determining a lot of how they respond. But we have a phrase that I love. It's where focus goes, energy flows. Or if you're a Star Wars fan, you can also use Qui-Gon Jinn's "Your focus determines your reality," which is basically what Adele's saying, right? When you look at how she's operationalized how to create great customer experience, like a lot of people will talk about it in this esoteric way, but not many people will break it down into the physical components, right? The reviews are a symptom of the experience. You're not focused on the reviews necessarily, but you can start there by saying, like Adele just did, well, what do we want people to say about them? What do we want the perception to be? Then let's break that down. What do we need to do with each of the touch points? Let's break down the touch points, figure out what we want to do at each of these to affect the outcome. So I love that Adele's really breaking it down, because not many people tackle something like this and put the focus into this that it needs. They just say, we need good customer experience. And then they just
Yes.
tell everyone, go
Or,
do that.
even better, I'm unhappy with the reviews we're getting. Well, what reviews?
Yeah.
I like the question
There's
of,
nothing wrong
well,
with
what
that.
do you want your reviews to say? Let's start with that.
Exactly. So
That,
having a focus on those specific tangible things and actionable things will change, and having conversations with your whole team about why that's important and why we're focused on this will change where the energy goes. So that's where focus goes, energy flows, is exactly that. If you focus on something and you talk about it, naturally people will put their energy towards improving it.
It's true, and talk about it, because if you're not talking about kindness, compassion, sparkling sunshine on your guest, lighting people up, making people happy, if you're not talking about it morning, noon, and night, people will get burdened with the day-to-day effort that they're making. I just made a customer service call this morning. Company should remain nameless. She helped me, but when she answered the phone, she was just like very transactional, and I felt, this is going to be a terrible experience, another bad customer experience.
You were customer 27 that she's dealt with today. You weren't Adele, who has a unique problem, which is how you have to frame every conversation.
Yeah.
But you know what? Hospitality people a lot of times will light up if they have the person in front of you, but they forget that on the phone, on the computer, on an email, on a text message, you still have to feel like you have to light that person up right from the hello. But what you said about talking about it all the time, some people think that it's a matter of having a training session, hiring people for a training session. We never did that. We only did the stand-up meeting.
By the way, if we can just get it out there right now, nothing in business is a checkbox. This industry is obsessed with checking boxes. Like, hey, we got a website. Done. Never again will we talk about this.
Whatever the issue is, it's like, well, we'll do a 1-day training session or a 2-hour training session. Like, so many people, like, diversity and equity is a big thing, and inclusion right now. And everyone's talking about it, and a lot of people are doing great stuff. But for a lot of people, it's another checkbox. Oh, we'll put our staff through diversity training on Friday.
Nothing works that way.
Like, no, let's continue the conversation. Let's talk about what we're doing that isn't creating equity between people. What can we do to improve that? But it's a cultural thing. You've got to have it infiltrate every aspect of your business. Whatever the initiative is, it's got to be a cultural thing. And the training sessions do not create culture. Conversations create culture. You've got to make sure you're talking
exactly
about it.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly right. And the diversity thing enters into this conversation as well, because if you don't work to light up and warmly sparkle sunshine on every single guest that you pass by, and every guest that, not just at check-in, but anytime you pass them in the hallway, people who have felt that they have been, not treated on the same level as other people will blame that based on what their previous thinking was. Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes in New York, I'll stand with my arm out on the street, wait, and 5 cabs with their lights on, pass me by. And if my Jewishness showed up on the color of my skin, I would blame it on that. You know what I mean? Or sometimes you blame it, it's because I'm a female traveler, or it's because I have children, or it's because we're a mixed couple, or whatever it is that you think that it is. And you'll blame it on that. So it's really important that everybody, not just some people, not the people who are dressed right, but everybody gets that warmth.
Yeah, agree.
So I also want to kind of point out, too, that one of the primary issues that we've had in hospitality for a long time is the blanket target strategy, right? Like everyone is my target market. And that leads to some of these review issues as well, because you can't deliver with excellence 3 different types of experiences. And frankly, we're not that good about figuring out why people are there in the first place. Anyways, you don't even know which of those 3 experiences to deliver to that guest. So I think it's a great time for people to really narrow down, like, what kind of hotel are we? Who is our target customer? How do we position ourselves in a way that, you know, the target customer hears our message? How do we speak to their pain points? I know, like, from my personal experience, right, I'm coming up on my 3rd trip during COVID. And it doesn't bother me to travel, really. And all of these have been essentially business-related trips, right? So for me, I haven't worried as much about what's open. However, when we were discussing, like, oh, personally, we'd really like to get away, the first thing that came to mind was, yeah, but what if nothing's open?
Mm-hmm.
And those types of fears, I think, are playing into a lot of the experiences. So especially those properties that have activities on site have a great opportunity to reach out and kind of talk with their customers.
Even the ones that don't, you know, being that source. Lauren's talked about this since day one, about being the source for the local area. And you don't have to be comprehensive, but you need to be useful in telling people what is open, what you can do, what you can't do.
Right.
Just setting that expectation is critical. Otherwise, people don't travel to spend time in a box, you know, in a bed
Right.
in a box. They travel for another reason. So
Yeah.
usually restaurants are a part of that. Usually some kind of thing to do is a part of that. Making sure that you're communicating is important.
Right. And I forget where it was, but some article I read recently said, you know, how is travel going to change? And they said more in-room experiences. And while it's nice to have that option, like, again, then you might as well just send them a package to use at home. Because, again, they're just staying in a box.
Right? Or do
Exactly.
virtual 360 VR experiences and sell them like Amazon is.
Right, exactly. It's just not the same.
It's not.
Every hotelier should be like the CVB of their block, their hood,
they're hyper-local.
and their city as a whole.
Yeah,
I like that expression.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You know, and I think there's something to be said that for a short period, people are more likely to, and we've seen this in the data. In our sentiment study, one of the things we asked was about restaurants and what would be your preference on your next trip. And we asked, you know, eating inside on property, outside, in room, an outside restaurant. We went through like what it was. And there was definitely a trend towards people buying groceries and cooking in their room if they were staying at the type of hotel that had the ability to do that. We blessed a lot of our businesses in resort destination markets where there's a lot of condotels. So they have kitchenettes or full kitchens in a lot of cases. And people have really taken advantage of that. The utilization of that has gone up tremendously. But I don't see that being a permanent thing. I think people will get back to some form of normalcy with travel, and they want to go out to restaurants more.
I think though in some ways it might be, because I think that people are, maybe it's just in my world, cooking more, and also caring about buying, you know, natural ingredients and knowing what goes into their food. So there may be saying, you know, I'd like to have a really nice brunch out or 1 meal a day out, but not 3 meals a day out the way they used to. So I think the ability to have a refrigerator in the room or some kind of cooktop, or be able to prepare things or order a package in advance, you know, from some hotels are offering like groceries to your room so you can create what you want and you don't have to bother finding it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, even when I traveled, I would occasionally reroute a HelloFresh box to where I was going because I knew that it would have everything I needed except for like oil, salt, and pepper, right? And so you don't have to put too much thought into it, but having I'm really surprised, honestly, that like your typical Residence Inn and whatnot have not embraced that more, that they don't have these types of kits available, because a grocery shopping service is great, but now I need to figure out exactly what I need, go through the recipe, blah, blah, blah. So having these pre-made kits, I think, is a huge thing. And I agree with you, Adele, and maybe it's just, for us millennials, but we are seeing a big trend towards more like cooking as a social activity almost. And so I think it's gonna go back to your point, Stuart, to more restaurants, but I don't think the cooking in-room trend is necessarily going to end. So I think hotel developers would be wise to kind of keep that in mind as they look at room design as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been doing a lot of technology trying to get myself alive. Hopefully you can hear me better. Do I sound better?
Yes, much better.
Awesome.
Are we?
I also have a new view about wood floors, or actually, I should say, they're not really wood. What is it called?
Laminate.
Laminate. I feel great about a hotel that has it now, to be honest.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But no, I really like
I think still in some ways we're looking at our toes and not looking a little farther up, in the sense that we're looking at the immediate interests that people have, the immediate concerns. And Stuart, thank you for saying that I had been mindful of this early on, where people are looking for, what can I do if I'm staying with you? And Adele, to your point, what are you doing about while I stay with you? And, then the other conversations about what to do if I'm with you. But there's a second level ripple to this that you guys have been kind of talking at. And that is, Lily, to your point, we've gotten accustomed to cooking. And some of us have realized how bad of a cook we are, or how great of a cook we are. But we fall into patterns and ruts. And some of us have tried to be a little bit more creative, successfully or not, whatever. Being able now to talk about, still to, Stuart, your survey showing the aspirational traveler, the penned up, yet to be transitional traveler that is more than interested, that is more than willing, I guess I should say, but has yet to pull the trigger on it. Airlines have seeded the interest with some crazy offers. Hotels have seeded it with crazy offers. And we're still not able to get them enticed out of the shadows yet as to taking advantage of things. They are, through your survey said, 50% of the people that are interested in traveling are beginning to travel. Lily, to your point, there's people.
53 in the
last
wow.
survey. Yeah. Wow. So, and Lily, you have demand travel that you've been having to do. You've had to travel. So regardless of whether you had that wonderful preference of, it's like, well, if I'm going to do this, I got to do this. But there's a ripple. There's a second level to this. Our ability to communicate unique food in our area, unique things that are very specific to our market, that people have come to reappreciate. We've all got to stop and smell the roses for a few months. And some of us have been frustrated because it's been a little longer than we wanted. Some of us are ready to climb the walls because we're seeing the same walls. But we really can amplify our value to them with all that stuff. The little sandwich shop that would have been we've all been to those conferences that the conference organizer tries to find the unique thing and says, oh, we got this cool muffalata shop around the corner in New Orleans, and you got to go catch it. Well, now we can talk about that more because there's more of an interest in that, and while you're here, go to, Jimmy Joe Bob's Gator Ride. Before it was like, I don't have the time, blah, blah, blah. Now it's like, oh, heck yeah. And if I'm going to go out and do this and be in someplace like New Orleans, I'm going to go over and get on Jimmy Joe Bob's Gator Ride, So it's a chance for us to really create those storylines that allow us to do what Adele has done so exceptionally well, and make that magic pixie dust that lands that says, we're just not a bed in a room, and we're just not somebody who's going to check you off as guest number 27. We're going to make sure that you remember being here, and you remember how well you enjoyed being here. And we were a part of that. We weren't the reason. We'd like to say so, but like good leaders, it's not the leadership that did it. It's the people that were inspired by the leaders that allowed them to succeed.
Yeah.
And so far, to be honest, like with all of these times I have traveled, I have yet to not need to call the hotel for more information. Like, I am not a caller. I'm a researcher, but I can't find the information that I need. Is, we're near the beach. Is the beach open? Am I allowed to go for a morning walk on the beach? Is, XYZ restaurant or attraction open? Nothing. It's about whether you need to wear masks in their lobby, which that's helpful to know as well. But some of them aren't even including things like that. And so you have to go hunting to figure out, what should I expect? Pre-arrival emails, in my opinion, are like absolutely paramount right now, whether it's 3 days prior or 1 day prior. And I know you can't do that with OTA guests, but
no one's going to get mad for you sending multiple pre-arrival messages if they're helpful messages, right? As long as you're not loading stuff.
Here's what to expect.
Yeah.
I saw a beautiful service called Hotel Experience. They're based in Paris, but they have they serve the world in hospitality, and they have such a lovely pre-registration form that you fill out that not only makes it quicker to check in, but they really get to understand who the customer is, what they need. It gives you an opportunity for them to purchase things in advance. And I really love that they took it out of the booking process, because I've always had that adding the breakfast or the wine or whatever in the booking process before I really know what kind of a customer it is. So I'm not really personalizing, which people are getting which things. And also, I think it interrupts the booking. Wouldn't you say so, Lily? Don't you just want to let them finish the booking first and let's deal with all of those special things later? But I love all the personalization that comes with that. I think it just makes such a stronger experience for everybody, and it helps them achieve the kind of experience that they want to have.
I have a question. I want to bounce an idea off you that I bounced off of a new client, actually. They're projecting roughly 50% occupancy. And
Lucky for them.
Right? But they're trying to push, and they're doing all the traditional things we talk about: exposure, brand awareness, location interest, amenities, value proposition, in comparison to comp set, all this other stuff. And I just threw at them a weird idea, and I'd love to see if you guys think it's just a whacked idea or not. Probably is. I said, why not reverse that conversation and say that you're restricting your occupancy to 50%? You're not going to allow more than that, to allow the space for people to feel more comfortable and to allow them the opportunity to not feel like they're being put into crowded common areas, that the food and beverage is available for them and it is spaced. And just really, if you're already not saying you're going to get more, then simply reverse it and say, why not amplify the fact that you can only do half?
I think it's a smart idea. I think there
I
are
love that.
things you have to think through. But the two biggest fears, and we've been asking this for 20 weeks straight now, and consistently, the two biggest fears, what are you most afraid of when you think of traveling right now? Fear of other guests and fear of common spaces. Those are the two biggest negative, disincentivizers. So I think the messaging, how you portray that, is great. You got to think through, okay, what if our demand exceeds 50%? Are we going to cap it? So I think you got to be a little careful on the legalities of it. But I think the message, the sentiment of it is perfect. Really good.
Yeah, and also, that 50% occupancy comes from highs and lows. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there's a lot of semantics to this that have to be defined in a way that you're not putting yourself in a corner saying you said only 50%. Yeah,
saying we're limiting occupancy to reduce your exposure to other guests and in common areas.
Right. It was just a pop off my head in the conversation the other day.
We've been doing research about what would motivate you, what would incentivize you to book right now, and we asked different questions related to cleanliness and hygiene, and we asked, putting tape on the door once it's been cleaned to show no one else has gone in, or putting the remote control in a Ziploc bag once it's been sanitized. And we went through a list of these things. And the one that resonated with people more than anything else was doing a deep cleaning between guests. Which, what does that mean, right? That could mean what I think is deep cleaning, what you think is deep cleaning could be different. As long as it's something more than you were doing before, using the terminology deep cleaning, the percentage of people that said that would have a positive impact on their booking decision versus keeping the room empty for 24 hours or 48 hours. Like people, that doesn't affect people's psychology, but the saying there's a deep cleaning between and saying there's fewer guests, those are things that really move the needle in terms of people that are teetering. And keep in mind that 85% of people say they could be persuaded to travel right now in the next 60 days. What are those buttons you can push or levers you can pull to try to motivate them to pull the trigger? Deep cleaning.
And don't charge me an extra $100 for a dog stay for one night when the room was $75 and tell me it's for deep cleaning when you have to deep clean it anyway.
Well, and Adele, to your point, I have had this argument, and literally an argument. I very rarely dig my heels in and get angry about stuff, but I've had this argument with my clients as to literally flat out tell them you're not pet friendly based on your pet policy charges. You're pet tolerant. If you're going to charge me a fat big fee or a fee per day, when during this crisis people got more pets and they didn't get pets just to leave them at home, and certainly if they're willing to make the risk of travel, they're bringing their newfound pet with them, and you're going to say, to your point, you're going to charge me as much to have them with me as it is for me to be here, when really there's nothing different. And to point to the fact that the liability of lease for a renter, quote, quote, of a room is just as obligated as if whether their dog chewed the best and chewed the bedpost or whether they didn't, because when you take that room on, any damages to that room, you are liable for as the temporary renter. So there is no difference.
It's exploitation of the fact that pet owners are crazy people.
Right.
Money on their pet.
Well,
and I'm
probably testament to that fact.
I mean, your child could be chewing on the bedpost for all we know, but nobody talks about that. But no,
Willie is specifically talking to me about my child, because he literally would do that, and he's 12. So.
No, I think you know the other thing that comes to mind, and I almost hate to bring this up because of the correlation it has, but when you talk about what is deep cleaning really, that pet cleaning fee. Have you ever seen a housekeeping board that indicates this room had a pet do deep cleaning? Ever.
And would you even know if you stayed in a pet, because you usually designate rooms that are pet related in your inventory, that if you want to have somebody come with a pet, do you ever walk in the door and know that you're staying in, you know, when you're in the ADA room, obviously. Do you know when you're in the pet room is like there are a bowl in the corner that's not getting used? No, you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. It's any room.
Right.
It's any room.
Right.
Yeah, but you know what? I had some advice really for regarding the pet rooms. You don't need pet-friendly rooms. You need
pet-free.
The pet-free rooms, because it's the only people who really care are the people who say, I have an allergy, I have a phobia. I need to know that my floor has never had a pet ever.
Right.
And keep those few floors sacred, because if you pick 3 or 4 pet-friendly floors, your team will one by one put pets on every single other floor in the hotel because the room type wasn't available, blah, blah, blah. Yep. You just have to have sacred pet-free floors.
Yeah, and I would be staying in that floor. Not a pet guy. Not a pet guy.
No. See, now the other thing too, and this has been something one of my clients did that's been I'm creeping them in on the idea, and they're actually enjoying this. If you are going to charge pet fees, then put a value proposition to it. If you have a chef, food and beverage outlet, have them make custom snacks. It is dirt easy to do, and usually requires most of the food in the restaurant that you wouldn't necessarily be using in a general cycle. You use aspects of it, but not all of it, and it can create great biscuits and tons of cool stuff. And little plastic bowls. For those at the Biltmore, they know that I took this. But outside they had, because it's so hot in the desert, they had the plastic bowls with the logo on it. And they're all over the place. And we had our dog with us. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. Oh, wish we had one of those. And we asked the service, like, hey, can we get one of the bowls? She says, just take that one. I'm like, bonus. Every time somebody comes over, they're like, oh, Biltmore. It's like a it literally it's brand recognition. Oh, I remember when we were there. Yeah, I remember we were there. that kind of stuff. So this one client that I have, we start doing the value proposition at first just by giving the pets bandanas.
Mm-hmm.
You get your dog groomed. Sorry, Stuart, this is probably not anywhere in the lane that you're interested in. But when you get your dog groomed, they give them a little bandana or a bow if it's a girl. They give the pets something that they're there. And usually there's season like Halloween, you get the little pumpkin bandana, and Christmas you get the little Santa bandana or whatever. Cats included, they get the same thing. Now, cats may not keep it on for very long, but anyway, that's another story. But the idea was this way, the hotel, little did most people know, knew whether the pet they were seeing around the property was properly checked in. Because if they didn't have the bandana, then it'd be like, hey, how are you? Oh, what a cute dog. Yeah, what room are you guys in? We'd like to set up a treat. And then we can go look and you guys didn't pay a pet fee, dude. We'll give you a bowl full of snacks and a little bandana. So anyway, it's kind of an internal check thing, but the value proposition of making it pet friendly, where down the lobby, there's food and snack, there's snacks and water, and that they hand out snacks if you're coming in with a pet. They see a pet. Now, it also gives you a chance to talk about, you can't go in the pool area, can't go in the food and beverage outlets. It gives you a chance to dialogue about it all. But making the best way to get to a pet owner's heart is treat their pet nice, and you're their friend. Because if you're nice
with kids and the parents, right, to win over a mama's heart, you treat the kid really well. Pet owners are like that on steroids. They're crazy about their animals.
Are you picking on our fur babies, Stuart? Are you picking on our fur babies?
Yeah, I have a reputation in my office for not being, and I have nothing against animals at all. I love animals. Crazy pet owners, I don't get it at all.
Well, you probably shouldn't visit my house, Stuart. All 7 of my animals would be ganging up on you.
That's like
you are living the life. One day, I told my husband I'm going to have 10 dogs one day.
Only 4 of them are dogs in my case, but yes.
Yeah. If I had a prenup before I got married, the only thing on it would have been I'm never having a dog, and so. About 6 months ago, finally my wife and kids wore me down to get guinea pigs, and they literally lasted about 2 weeks. One of them got ringworm, and I forget what. Oh, and one of them ended up. They were meant to be 2 girls. One ended up being a boy, and the other a girl. And so it stressed out my family so much that we gave them to another family to take care of. So we had pets for like a month. So that was.
So I guess we missed some of the chat. Tamara was asking who had the steel drum band ringtone.
My husband swore to me that he deactivated my phone before this call.
The truth is out. Somebody loves the islands, man. That's our. We actually listen to steel drum music on Sunday afternoons just to chill and have it in the background. I don't know. It's just pleasant and enjoyable, but
it's relaxing.
It makes you feel like you're on holiday.
Yeah,
it does. It is one of those music genres that is usually associated with the relaxation, enjoying something that is not just what your normal lifestyle is. So yes, by all means for that. It kind of goes to something I wanted to bring up. Holly brought up a great link that, and Stuart, you alluded to it as well, that Amazon is putting their toe into stuff. I mean, obviously, Robert shared his list with us.
If you'd predicted how Amazon was going to make its next entry into travel, because would
not have been this.
This is not what I would have anticipated. Right.
So I think
I would not have thought that.
Though he called out in there that they're actually buying the hotel to level it, if that's the one you're talking about.
They did that to level it. I understand, but just still, it's just interesting that they're looking at opportunistic based on our industry. Who knows what and where and how. I mean, they're looking at malls right now to change those into distribution hubs. There's so many different ways that these.
I misunderstood. Sorry. Okay, I thought you were talking about the VR stuff they were doing.
Oh no, I'd like to get to that as well because there's a unique market I think that is not. It's not utilized as strongly as it could, and I think what we have here is there is a lot of people in our culture that can't have a variety of travel. They can't go to the 5 places they want to go to. They can go to 1 maybe, for either through physical limitations or age or whatever it is. They can, financial,
There is something interesting about VR, and I haven't read this article thoroughly. They may mention this, but I read a lot about neuroscience. It fascinates me. I've really been interested in reading about how the neurological structure is being altered by us being thrown for a loop through COVID. And so that's an opportunity actually for people to really try new things, because people have been primed to try. But one of the things about neuroscience that's really interesting is when you have a VR headset on, the memories it creates aren't the same as when you're looking at a screen. Like if you're looking at a movie, watching a video game, something like that, it creates a certain type of memory. But when you have a VR headset on, it creates the same type of memories in the brain that experiencing in real life does. It totally flips.
That's neat. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's stored.
So you're saying we all live in a matrix? Are we in a matrix? Are we nothing but a battery to somebody? Okay, just checking.
Very possible.
But I always thought, when we opened the Aria Hotel in Budapest or even in Prague, that I would have loved to have had as a sales tool to take around with me something where they could feel like they're on top of the rooftop, looking over the city and just seeing the experience, not from a picture. I just think I think that's the most amazing sales tool. I hope that becomes affordable.
Where I kind of think I'm scratching my head a bit is they're charging money for experiences, like as a replacement for actual travel. And that, like to your point, I get, like if I was a group sales manager and I wanted to show my facilities, VR would be the perfect way, right? You could have someone walk through an event that was already set up and see it with and without set up. But for me to say I've always wanted to go to Prague, I'm going to spend $80 on this virtual reality experience. I don't personally think I would ever do that.
And I don't think, Stuart, you're not the person I'm thinking about when I say that. You're absolutely right. I don't think I'm going to do $80 just to see if I like it. However, if I am homebound,
sure,
or what have you, and I can't make that trip, I can only imagine, to Adele's point, sitting in a VR world with that piano that they have in that place, and sitting and listening to a wonderful, beautiful mini concert of it, and being able to turn whenever I'd like to and look out the window over the city, or look back at the piano player, or look at the room itself. Not being there, understood, but to your point, Stuart, VR can augment my actual physical ability mentally to be there. Then that gives me the chance to say that I've experienced it in some level of what it would be like had I been there.
Like if you're on the Starship Enterprise and you need to have a little break on Earth, you go into this room where...
Exactly right.
Now, real-world examples are always helpful, Adele. Thank you.
Yeah. And
now I understand it. Talked in nerd. I understand it now. Great.
Right. Yeah, go to the holodeck and it's the second deck. But to a point with some of the things, and I'd like to bring the earlier conversation I had together with this as well. For all of us that are growing in our culinary skills or newfound skills or whatever they are, being able to be brought visually in front of someone, I've enjoyed, and this is really weird to say, there's this thing called Italian Moms on Facebook, and they put the camera right in front of these very octogenarian women that have been doing this since they were itty bitty women, girls, and just in awe of them making their pastas, their sauces, the whatever it is that they're doing, and you're front row center watching them do these things. Can I do them? Not in a freaking million years. I mean, the way that from picking the tomatoes to making the tomatoes, I mean, just you're sitting there going, God, that looks good. And then I got to go get a can of tomato sauce and dump it in. It's like, it's not the same thing, but but the idea of it is that you see this and you're like, I want to go there. I want to do that, or I want to learn that. But it's kind of like connected to something that's very much a part of our lives that it wasn't before. A lot of us were going out, grabbing a bite, going to a favorite restaurant on a regular basis. Eating at home was more of a percentage of our dining experiences through the course of the week than it was a mainstay of our dining experiences as it has been. And so now there's this new interest category of how do you make that? which is kind of cool. So, I mean, categorically, culinary or something like this is just as much to me as an interest as sitting in, the hotel in Prague and watching the piano concerto and looking out over at the lights of Prague.
Can I
My
just
brother
point
and
out?
sister-in-law. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to point out, it's a joke. It's not even meaningful. But you know how they say, you say tomato, I say tomato? Well, Lauren actually says both because he transitioned. He said tomato twice and then said tomato.
Well, I don't really say tomato sauce because it doesn't do tomato right. It's tomato sauce. But tomatoes are wonderful little plumpy little things that you get off the vine.
Tomatoes make tomato sauce. That makes sense.
Yeah, tomatoes make tomato sauce. Well, it's living in Canada as a kid and then growing up in the States as well. There's a hybrid combo thing going on.
Sorry, go on.
Nope. It's like aunts and ants. Ants are little bugs. Aunts are your loves.
I was just going to say, though, that my brother and sister-in-law, whenever they travel, they always go to the hotel's cooking lesson. They always buy that experience because they'd love to be able to come home and say, well, yes, I learned to make this in Florence,
It's kind of a smackdown to somebody saying, this tastes different. It was made from a recipe from a little old lady in Florence. It tastes different because it's better than anything you've ever had compared to, it's in a can from the Outback. Yeah.
So that's what I was talking about earlier when I kind of briefly touched on this. When I was talking about the neuroscience of VR, one of the things they're saying about, as we age, once we hit about 25, the neuroplasticity in our brain begins to diminish, right? We don't do well at creating new neural patterns, neurons, and things like that. So because we're in a rut, right? We go through the routine, and it's the same thing that happens. Like one of the things they're saying is because people's routines have changed, they expect to see a decrease in dementia for a short period, because a lot of times dementia starts to come on because people retire, they're not taxing their brain, they're not thinking new thoughts, they're not creating new neural pathways, and so their brain deteriorates, right? It's like anything else. You got to keep using it or you lose it. So one of the things they're saying with COVID is because we've all been rocked, all of us are now learning new skills, doing new things. The neuroplasticity is coming back a little bit for a lot of people, and so we're primed to be more open to trying new things than we once were. So offering stuff like culinary training or new experiences is probably going to be more successful moving forward than it would have been without COVID, because people now are more willing to try stuff they've never tried before.
It's interesting because if you dig into some of the other commercial areas too, sales of like even big ticket items like your own pizza oven in your backyard, right, are skyrocketing right now because people are spending more time at home. And it's going to be interesting to see, when eventually travel is back open to a level where people feel like they can travel whenever they want to, will those in-room experiences, or not in-room, hotel speak, in-home experiences, keep them from traveling because they've gained comfort with a new reality where they're doing more entertaining at home? Or will they desert this high ticket item that they've bought and it becomes like I was every time I looked at an apartment as a kid, I want the one with a balcony. Did I ever go on the balcony? Never. But I paid more for it every time. So, really kind of looking at how is that going to shift, things like that are going to shift behavior. But then you can tackle that too. Like, okay, well, let's do some research. If we have a pizza oven and people are buying pizza ovens, just using that as an example, like how can we engage with those people now? Can we do a virtual pizza cooking class or something like that, sponsored by the hotel, which then you get to talk about other things at the hotel and reaching people in new and interesting ways.
Yeah. And keep in mind too, and Stuart, this is not in deference to your survey, but and this kind of goes, I'm going to make an analogy of something that is related to, in wars been passed, we had a lot of fatalities because we didn't have good medical facilities or the ability to bring those that were wounded to a place that they could be saved. And since that made the mortality very high. As the wars progressed, we had a faster means of getting people that were injured to medical facilities faster and faster. I mean, the military has all this calculations that they do this for. And what we ended up with was a lot of people that survived, but they survived with injuries, loss of limbs, incapacitation, so forth and so on. Also, too, is our medical systems, where there are a lot of people that may have in times past been mortally lost because we didn't have the facilities, the medications, the capabilities of keeping them alive, because whatever they had we didn't know and we weren't able to treat, and they end up suffering for that. There's a lot of people that just can't travel, is what I'm trying to point out too. And if they do travel, they are very specific about what it is that they need to make that travel experience happen. And I'm not being trite by this. That's why the tour bus existed. Okay, I can't drive. Can't do an RV anymore. I can get on a bus and sit there, and then get off the bus and stay there, and get off the bus and look there, and then go home on the bus, and then go on a plane and go home. That's why that's why those things existed. Mm-hmm. That's why they try to do 20 countries in 7 days, because they're trying to shoehorn anything possible while that existed. We're now being given technology that's allowing us, to our earlier conversation, to expose ourselves to things that we would not have been able to include into that older environment of being able to be on a bus and seeing these things, that we can do now virtually. Is it the same? Absolutely not. There's nothing replacing the smells, the touch, the tactile, the hidden past that I didn't know that was their thing, and so forth and so on. I'm the geek that when I try, yes, thank you, and the people. I'm the geek that carried the 360 camera around all over the Netherlands when I was last there. I was the dork that had the stick with the camera. My family was 15 feet back going, don't know. And now I'm the one that's going over and putting the video edits together that I can look and pick and relive a little bit of that time when we were on the tour boat, or when we went and saw that church, or we went into the Centrum and to the market and so forth, for the pure pleasure of being able to replay it. So it's kind of a, no, I can't do that right now. But I know people that now they're losing time. The older that they are, the less time that they have. And so they're putting pools in the back of their houses because they can't do the traveling that they used to do. And now physically they're having limitations as to what travel they could do. And the fear that they can't expose themselves to what travel brings either. So this is a great accommodation to it. We can add to aspirational desires by adding more content that people can really pick us if they're going to travel.
Yeah, and I think you're hitting on something important, right? I've had a few conversations about it this week, and folks are like, is this going to replace travel? I don't think it is. I think it opens up travel to a new audience that
right.
to your point, can't travel, right? Don't have the means or the ability to travel. So I don't see it as a threat. I think if anything, it's going to encourage people to find a way to travel if they can, and maybe inspire more travel opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very much so. Well, I think we played that one out as much as we could for it.
Hey, when's this show going to go virtual reality?
Right? Well, the way I got to say, I'm impressed. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to ask Lily a question and change the subject entirely. So please go ahead.
No, go right ahead. Go ahead.
Did you see, Lily, the article from Bonnie Bruckheimer, who is so great on Hotel News Now, because she was talking about, the overload of data and how to, what kind of data they're really zeroing in now. You want me to give you the link? One moment, sorry. Oh, no, that's not it. This one. She was, she was talking about, what they found to be really practical now is looking at the search data. And, oh no, that is not the link either. Why? You know what? I'm going to have to come back. I'm going to have to find that again. I don't know where I went with it. But anyway, she did say that, the search data is so important right now. And she said, what I find is I've never had really great search data. I've had search data sometimes in a very messed up, raw way, that you would take me hours to comb through, and sometimes I suffered it because I really wanted to know what dates were people looking for, when did they were not able to complete the reservation. Let's say, why? Because we had a minimum stay. Why? Because we had a 3-person cap on the room and they had a family of 4. Things like this. I wanted to find out what was keeping people from completing the bookings on dates that I really needed the business. But I have never had a really good report. I've also had some data from the hotel network, which is a very good layer that goes over your website so that you can kind of, you can identify a lot of great information that way. But I've never really had it in a just quick, easy to understand, let me get to the point of what I need. And I was just wondering if you knew of any tools that really give you good information in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of tools that you can plug into your website. And frankly, if this is a tools question, I should probably let Lauren answer it because he has 50 more than I do for this purpose, and they're all plugged into his website. No, but it's really important. I mean, I can speak from our personal website, right? Like our TCRM website, our ThinkUp Enterprises website, we're able to see what search terms people are using. We're even able to go into Google Analytics and kind of get an idea of what's going on with others. And then there's additional tools that you can plug in, like Lucky Orange or Ahrefs or things like that, that you can really get in and start to analyze better. Some even have heat maps, right, where you can see where people are hovering on the site or interacting more within a page instead of just which pages are they on and how much time are they spending. And I think that's really key because that gives you a lot more data to exactly what you're saying. Like, okay, the people who aren't converting on dates that I need, what is causing them to not convert? But I love this topic because this is a great example of why revenue management and marketing need to be working together, my broken record. And, since when have you been in a revenue meeting and looked at a dashboard that said, hey, here's our need dates. Let's go through need dates. Let's look at the search data. Let's look at the pricing. Let's look at the competition. Those two things never intermingle. And I think that is the direction that we need to go. We started out the show, of course, talking about things that people just talk about and never do. And this is another one of those that we really need to jump on.
I think that the CRSs, whoever is providing our booking engines should be able to give us much better information, and they're really falling down on the game.
You are preaching to the choir. The problem is most of the technology that's out there is antiquated and hasn't been built with marketing in mind, right? The insight that you can get. Half of the people, at least half of the people that come to us don't even have basic e-commerce tracking set up, either because they don't know how to, or it's too cumbersome, or it's physically not capable with the booking engine that they're using. So you have to get that visibility. You have to be able to say, I know every dollar I'm spending, how it arrives at my website, and what it ends up doing, whether it ends up in a conversion, how much that's worth, what package it was, what dates it was. When we rebuilt our booking engine about 3 years ago now, our 2 primary goals, one was to make it as mobile friendly as possible. We built it from the ground up to be mobile first and then build it out to work on desktop. But the second pillar that we built it on was analytics, because we've been running into this problem for so long where you cannot see. So now through Tag Manager, with our booking engine, we can create any kind of report. And a lot of times we start by saying, what are the questions you want to answer? And then let's create reports that answer those questions. So we have reports that look at things like how the booking window is changing over time, and how the actual what's being booked booking window compares to the search windows, because sometimes you might run into people bailing out. And then most importantly, why are people bailing out? Are they running into no inventory, or the rates off of OTAs, their parity issue, things like that? So I think you're right. I don't know that there's an easy solution for people, because the big guys, the big CRSs, and certainly the PMSs that have their own booking engines do a shockingly bad job of tracking through the entire funnel. So,
the problem.
it's not going to improve.
Unless everyone switches to Fuel's booking engine, it's not going to improve anytime soon.
All right, let's do it. You can handle about 500,000 more hotels this week, right?
We'll figure it out. We're scrappy.
What are some of the hotels that have a Fuel booking engine so I can look at them? I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, go to breakers.com. That would be the first one.
Yeah.
It's mine. That they use our booking engine. The thing about ours is it's different in a couple of ways. One, you don't have to deal with cross-domain tracking issues because it's embedded in the website. So rather than like if you look at a Synexus or a TravelClick or SHR, Windsurfer, whoever, name it, right? Typically, you go to hotel.com and then you click on the booking engine. It opens a new tab, which if you just stop doing that, you're going to see at least a 10% increase in conversion rate on mobile just by not opening a new tab, keeping it in the same window. Then it goes to a bad facsimile of the website. So it goes from a beautiful website to this looks kind of like it, but not quite. Like the navigation's font's slightly different or something's wonky. Or in some cases, TravelClick does this a lot where they take the navigation out completely, which again tanks the conversion rate. They try to take this Amazon approach to the shopping cart, right? Which if you look now, when you get to Amazon shopping cart, they make it hard for you to get back out of it because they see that leads to more conversions. But that's a linear transaction. You've gone through, you've done your research, you've added your product to the cart, you're going to close. Hotel research isn't like that. If you look at the data, people will come, they'll go into the booking engine, they'll search for rates, then they'll come back and they'll look at the amenities, or they'll look at the area information, or they'll drill down into the room and understand a little more of the configuration. It's not a linear path. So when you open a new tab and you lose the navigation and it's on another domain and you're not tracking it, you have all kinds of wonky issues. So keep your booking engine in the same domain as your website. Keep it so that the guest doesn't change the experience. Keep it so they can jump back and forward, but remember what they searched for. You will see tremendous increase in conversion rate, especially on mobile, which is where so many people say, well, mobile traffic's over 50%, but bookings are still under 50%. Well, that's because you're doing it wrong. Because any hotel that's doing it right has more than 50% of their bookings in mobile.
Really?
Yeah, and it has been for about 2 years now. We hit the tipping point.
Oh, that's interesting. And so your CRS comes with the website.
So we don't have a CRS. We're not a central reservation system. We are a booking engine that integrates directly with the PMS. So we actually have the advantage over most CRSs in that we can pull every rate you have. So a lot of CRSs are using, without getting too technical, most PMS systems, and keep in mind there's over 700 PMS systems on the market right now. It's the most fragmented portion of our industry and why have a lot of the technical challenges we have. Most of them have a direct API where you can pull anything you want, and then they have what they call an OTA API, which is where they pull specific rates, and there's limitations on what restrictions and things like that you can do, which is why a lot of people need a CRS. 90% of our clients don't use a CRS anymore because their booking engine and channel manager do everything they need it to do. So they
do it through a channel manager.
Well, our booking engine is separate from the channel management. It directly communicates with the PMS in real time. We're making the bookings and pulling the rates and doing the restrictions real time from the PMS. And we have layers like a CRS does of configuration to override that depending on the PMS. But then I
always found though that the CRSs gave me a lot more robust opportunities to create things the way I envisioned that rate going. And so I never really was trying to set it up, just in the PMS. The PMS would only say this is the bar rate, but in the system I would set up all my rules and what's an independent rate or a rate with a change upon a change upon a change, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Because I couldn't really get what I wanted to do in the PMS.
It depends how complex you get with the rates. I mean, what we have that level too. So what we do, we try to encourage people to look at rates as, hey, I've got a rate throughout the year, and it can change, and you can have restrictions, and you can have, you know, yielding, and you can have length of stay discounts and things like that. But it's really one set of rates throughout the year, which has all those calculations, and then you merchandise on that. So you could come up with a back to school special or this package or whatever by adding on. But it's really, we try to simplify the rate code. So you don't have, like we used to have clients that would come to us and they have 70 different rate codes. Mm-hmm. And it's like, how do you manage that? How do you manage that and update that in real time and yield based on occupancy? But two, how does a reservationist know what should I be selling to these people? So we really try to simplify it down for a lot of folks. That has
Stuart, I'm sorry, but you've just turned into eye candy only. The brains of the operation have showed up. Melissa?
I had to jump in on this one.
Hey, what do you think about other booking engines, Melissa?
I'm not allowed to say on this show.
Yeah,
I can't say that.
Oh, yeah, you can. Sure you can.
Well, we have an episode of the podcast that was literally, I forget the actual title, but it was something about booking engines that suck. And we talked about why they suck. But yeah.
Yeah. So well, also keep in mind too, and Adele, this goes to some of your earliest thing to say. Even if the booking engines, the big ones, wanted to do even half of what Stuart just pointed out, they got empty caverns. They've let so many people go during this past process that even if should they get back the brain trust that they lost, the scaling up, the handling the things that broke while they were gone will take the first of it. And then the things that they need to improve upon will take the second of it, long before they start getting into the visionary of what they should be doing more about. So there's a long road for them.
So as Stuart said, when we built this booking engine, and this is not a plug for a booking engine, but I just want to make people understand that it's not—
give me a plug. Go ahead.
It's not a one-sided thing. It's not just the software side. So let's pretend that there's another awesome booking engine out there that actually makes available all the data that we have. So like Stuart said, we're tracking arrival departure dates. We're tracking the packages that are searched. We're tracking the packages that are booked. We're tracking booking window, all that, length of stay, all that stuff. Let's pretend that there's another engine that does that out of the box for their clients. Somebody on the client side needs to do something with this data. They need to know how to set up their analytics to actually report on this data, and then what to do with the data. So it's not just your booking engine sucks and it doesn't have the data. You still need to be able to put all the puzzle pieces together to digest the data. And that's, it's a massive undertaking.
Software providers have that offering, right? They're not adding that service layer. So one of the advantages we have and why we were successful is because we grew up as an agency that had software, and then we flipped to become a software company that still had an agency. Regardless, we don't sell you a product. We don't sell you a widget. We sell you a strategy. It's the same approach that Flip2 takes, right? They sell their advocacy product, but you get an account manager that's going to handhold you through how to maximize that product, and that's been our secret sauce this whole time. If the big guys figured that out, they'd crush it. They just need to make a couple of changes to how they structure it. But yeah, it's worked out really well for us.
Those are my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 4 cents.
Yeah.
And a valuable 2 cents there. I would also go as far to say is in relationship to how you guys are approaching it versus other booking engines. They're still looking at the traditional, okay, we got to go through this funnel of engagement. What are you looking for? What do you in particular, this is what we have to offer. Do you like it? There's no progressive conversation, an amazingly excellent job of not just featuring the fact that they can book if that's their choice of call to action at that moment, but you relate the call to action to the content that you have connected that particular call to action to. I've seen it on the sites you guys do that. If you're talking about a particular event or you're talking about a particular opportunity to come stay, the call to action is tailored to that. It's built for that particular call to, that particular content. And compared to just now I have to reset myself and go back and redefine what I'm interested in doing.
Yeah.
Right.
So
it kind of goes a little bit to.
I'll give you a couple of examples, because our booking engine, you can jump in at any point in the process, and it can remember what you search. So if I'm looking on a calendar of events and there's an event in my destination that is spanning these dates, and then someone says, okay, you got me, I want to search rates now. Why would you not default the dates to the same as that? Why would you make them manually put them in? Or if they're looking at a specific...
You think that common sense would be, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Or the other one that kills me is the accommodations page. Like someone has an accommodations, people looking through the room types, they find the 3-bedroom oceanfront that's really good, and then they said book now, and it takes them to the starting page of the booking engine. So, well, why not pre-select that room type? Because it's clearly
you know why? I'll tell you why. Because if you pre-select the room type, that date, those rooms may not be available. So you want to give them.
How we do
you
that?
don't want to have an error message, nothing available.
Yeah, but you solve that by showing on the room type page the availability calendar for that specific room. So when they enter the booking engine, they're picking dates that room's available. And if they happen to want other dates, they can see a full availability calendar for the whole property.
And they can also do an Amazon style, right? They default it to the Ocean View Suite or whatever. But underneath that, they have people like you also booked 1, 2 other room types to increase the chances of showing immediate availability if they can't pull in the availability calendar for some reason.
Exactly right. It's all these like teeny little nudges through the funnel, reducing friction and just using psychology, like what you just said, that social proof side of someone else has already done this makes someone else a lot more likely to do it, or the urgency.
It's so powerful.
You better hurry up. You're going to miss out. That FOMO is going to get you. So, those are the little things about the engine that make a massive difference when you aggregate them all. Each one might only make a 0.5% elevation in conversion rate, but when you add, they accumulate, right? So once you add them all together, I mean, we see people's direct booking conversion rate jump 20, 30, 40% just by switching booking engine and doing things the right way.
And having good pictures.
I'm going to go back to my cooking conversation earlier on as we have all become to cook more and do more frequently. A lot of us have painfully realized that some kitchens are not laid out for efficiencies.
Yeah.
Having been in the food and beverage side of things for a very long time, it's really it's called what's called the golden triangle. Your food storage, food preparation, and food cooking are in this very short nested 3-prong area. So that as you turn to the refrigerator, you can turn back to the cutting table and turn to the stove or the what have you, not walking across the space or going from one end to another. And having designed restaurants for many years, building that in where you just don't shove stuff in. We look at so many houses because we're looking to buy a house to move from our condo, and looking at the kitchens, they have these galley kitchens, and you're like, oh, look at all the great appliances and so forth. Yeah, but the refrigerator is down on that end. Stove's down on that end, and the countertops in the middle over there. So everything you're doing is you're going between a lot of different places. Why I bring this up, the booking engine process should be one of an integrated combination of things. What brought you there, what you're interested in, what your availability is, and how you're going to be able to convert that to a purchase should be connected to each other. Not having to go back to the top of the tier to go back into the process. Not have to go outside of the pattern that you found it in to come back to the process, but rather it's in the process as you've discovered it so that you can make that choice without having to go. And unfortunately, we're all shiny squirrel people. Like, oh yeah, this is great. Click, and you go back up too far and you found something else. And then you have analysis paralysis. You painted yourself in a corner. You've given yourself too many choices. And then you calm off, say, you know what? I don't know what I want. Maybe I'll just calm down. Where had they just been able to continue with their first thought process, you probably would have gotten a booking and then expanded upon the value proposition of that booking afterwards.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a couple of principles you touched on. One is definitely always give people a finite choice, right? And a clear path forward. Don't overwhelm them with data. But the other side of that is always give them some way forward. Like a lot of booking engines, you can run into, we did a whole episode on this, like running into dead ends. Like a lot of people say, I'll do a search and it'll just say no availability. It's like, well, what do I do now? right? Where's my next step?
It doesn't say that it was a minimum night stay error.
Right.
It doesn't say there were actually no rooms available. Just nothing.
Yeah. Tell them why nothing's available. Is it that there's no inventory, or show them the calendar with other availability. Show them the rates. For a lot of people, they don't realize this. Most people's dates are flexible. Depending on why they're traveling, but certainly leisure for the most part is flexible.
Yeah.
So if they can save $50 by shifting a week, why wouldn't you let them do that? They're happy. You're now selling less demand inventory, and then the peak inventory is available. It's better. It's win-win for everyone. So
I always start out with the rate calendar.
Yeah, exactly. Because you have to really if you're going to have a lower rate on a weekday to attract more demand, right? How are you doing that if people naturally are going to say, okay, well, I want to travel on a weekend, and they search for that, and they never see that you have a lower rate on a weekday?
I love that you guys are saying this, because so often people said, oh, Adele, why don't you have that thing where you put in the dates and press search right on your homepage instead of book now that takes you to the calendar? Because I said, because then I'm not selling. I'm just order taking. Oh, I don't have that. You know what? I'm $500 a night on that day. And then they run because they don't know that it's $250 2 days later. Because I have tons of availability and I only have 3 rooms left on that date. I feel like I'm selling when I give them a calendar and I'm trying to drive traffic to the dates that I want.
The other thing
I have a question for.
So I was going to say, the other thing we've been experimenting with, and this is through Flip2, they have this plug-in that sits on top of our booking engine now called Discovery. And it's a different introduction to the booking process. So rather than doing, like you're saying, Adele, just search on the homepage, what it does is it creates a relationship with the guest by having a conversation. It shows a person, usually someone from the property, says, hey, my name is Lauren, and what's bringing you to our property, or what are you interested in? And they might pick like an upcoming event. It's dynamic. It might be a season that they're interested. But then we're actually experimenting with collecting an email address at that point in the funnel and seeing what impact it has. And the results have been phenomenal. We have a couple of properties that have collected an additional 50,000 emails in the last 12 months through this. And it doesn't.
That's priceless.
And it doesn't have a negative impact on the ultimate conversion rate. You see a drop off of the people getting into the booking engine, but the net of people coming to the website and getting to the end of the funnel is about the same. But now you're collecting a lot of people's contact information. You can remarket to them. You can do shopping cart abandonment, all kinds of stuff. It's millions of dollars in additional revenue in this year during COVID-19 for a lot of these properties that have been doing it.
Wow, you should submit that for an Adrian Award.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah,
because that's it.
Yeah, actually, you should.
Most of the work, but we'll take the credit. So yeah, we'll submit.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So have you and team, Melissa included, looked at comparing, because APIs are available for flights now, or have been actually, it's just not now, but flights, flight rates, so forth from feeder markets. And I know that there's a granularity to your marketing structure as to geo-targeting your marketing campaigns. And from that, you can determine what it would cost via the APIs of the flights that go to the destination airports that you have your product in, that you can correlate the rate opportunities of flights and dates that you have available. And can you offer dynamically, potentially, I'm not saying you do, potentially could you not offer from a targeted ad campaign or a dynamic page development, if they come to it that says, hey, this is our rates, and this is flights. Because as you talk about, if there's a flexibility of opportunity, you really can show the value proposition of the flights or what they have to, because if for anybody coming from that market, they're looking at what it's going to cost to them to get to your market. Flight isn't, for at that moment, unless they're going to drive an exceptional distance, which right now may not be as applicable. But the fact that they can look more comprehensively, stay with you a little bit longer, to look at oh, well, you're charging this and the flights are, I can go and look at this, or this is what the average range is with carriers or something. Is that of any value interest at all?
Yeah,
Or
so
is that just too complex and not worrisome?
Lauren,
So
why would
20
we do that when we can let an OTA do it for us and then just give them all of our inventory?
There you go. That's the easy
Yeah,
choice.
you're right. You're right. Silly me. Dumb. Okay.
So 20 years ago, when I started with the company, when I was a programmer, and one of the first products I worked on was our package engine. So at the time, we were just launching what we called IntelliRes, which was we would pull in real-time flight booking or flight price data in package. We also had rental car in there and stuff. But what we've learned, and this is where I think you and I differ a little bit, Lauren, like you love to go on the fringe cases. Whatever your ideas are, they tend to be brilliant, but niche or fringe. And where we've really been successful over the last 20 years is let's find a problem, a specific problem that has a big audience and solve that problem. And so we talk about stuff like that, but honestly, it would be a distraction for us at this point. Most of our clients aren't in high flight destinations. Most of them are, Daytona or Panama City or Myrtle Beach, these drive markets. So I would rather spend my development time, candidly, improving the conversion rate on mobile of a booking engine than trying to cater to this small section of audience. It's just a philosophical difference.
See, we had you have weather triggers for ads. We always did them for the Florida properties that when we had that real cold snap in November up north markets and it stuck. That was our trigger for certain ad campaigns to roll. And we did that in reverse for New York when we had the properties up there, that when certain rate thresholds dropped on the carriers to the 3 airports that were in market, triggered our offers for the hotel. Because as people did their own discovery, they realized that it was an affordable trip. And we didn't put the two together, which was what I was mentioning, but it was a trigger that from a campaign perspective to it, that was helpful to the feeder markets.
It's certainly a data point you should be paying attention to with the marketing mix. It's in anything that has an influence on behavior, and flight prices is a massive one in some markets. You've got to understand its impact and monitor it so you know when to react. For sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What did you put up there, Adele? I'm sorry.
I put from Stephanie's company. I think it's from Cogwheel. We were talking before about how there are things that we know that we should be doing, and for some reason nobody's doing it. Maybe it's because they haven't brought the sales and marketing team back, or one person's trying to do 5 jobs or whatever. But this is
COVID. That's not the reason.
You're right.
We weren't doing it before.
I have always been obsessed with, how does the hotel show up everywhere else on the internet, not just on the website, but review every page of your website at least once a month, every single page, because some stories are just old. But this says, why are you not updating your stuff on TripAdvisor and talking about what's current in COVID? Why aren't you doing it in Expedia? There are so many opportunities to be really descriptive online. And I just think that article was, such a strong and good reminder. And please pay attention to the details now. Get somebody on it. It's not hard. It's easy.
Most people make the mistake of, especially when they're doing a website redesign, they'll spend all their time focused on the homepage. They'll overanalyze every pixel on the homepage, and then they'll finish that, and it's beautiful, it's perfect how they want it, and then they'll just slap the lower level pages together, right? But if you look at the entry point, the introduction of your brand to most audience members, it isn't the homepage of your website anymore. It's TripAdvisor, it's Expedia, it's a landing page on your website where you wrote an article about the local area and they landed on it. It used to be back in the day that the first page, the entry point to your website for the majority of people was the homepage. It's still the number one, but it's not the majority of people anymore. People are coming in from everywhere. So you've really got to identify every single first impression point that exists and make sure you give it the same attention you used to give your homepage, the same attention you give to your lobby as well. That initial emotional reaction is going to determine whether or not that person's likely to book with you or not. That impression.
It is such an emotional buy. The moment they come on the website, it has to have that wonderful feeling, and it has to convey what the experience is really like. Mm-hmm. Because if you, to Lily's point, if you're presenting something that you're not, if you don't know who am I as a hotel, what makes me different, who is my real customer, if you're putting that out, you're going to attract the wrong audience, and they're going to complain when they get there because that was not the experience that you projected. Exactly. Just be real, be fearlessly authentic. And every single detail, some people say to be really simple on your website, and that's great if you can, but I'd rather be, richly descriptive with pictures and 360 tours and links to the room configurations and detail what makes the difference between this room and this room. And I even showed a picture of a window looking out to a brick wall and a fire escape to say, if you're looking for a view, not the room for you. Yep. But it is one of the quietest rooms in the hotel because it faces into the courtyard, so you don't have all that noise from Times Square.
Yeah. I really look forward to the day when everybody uses 360 hotel views especially with their room types, because there's always, let's be honest, you could be the best photographer in the world, but some rooms are not conducive to photography because you just can't get the right angle without, having a nice little reflection in the mirror of you taking a picture. But which is also not professional, in case anybody was thinking that I was suggesting that. But having that 360 view where you can really take a look around and see for yourself what the room experience is going to be like is probably the number one upsell tool that any hotelier can put on their website. And my theory is that the ROI from doing that and the amount of upgrades that you would actually sell would quickly take care of any cost involved with producing that type of imagery.
Yeah, and if you're not quite ready to bite the bullet on that, because it doesn't have to be expensive. You can get cheap equipment and do it yourself now, or pay professionals. But the other thing that we see have an impact, 360 videos have a massive impact, but the other thing is just having a good old plan, like showing the floor plan.
Right.
Showing a static image of the floor plan in the booking engine when on the room page in the booking engine has a massive impact. Especially if you're not just one room, box hotel. If you are, it has an impact. But if you have 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms and 4 bedroom units, showing the individual layouts is critical.
Really. Yeah, and an A/B test a couple of years ago for a client where we had noticed that their virtual tours, on their individual room pages, were getting a ton of use, and the conversion rate of people who were using those virtual tours was really high. So we decided to try putting those virtual tours on the homepage to get it more visibility, and we had a huge increase in conversion rate by doing that.
Yeah.
Really?
One of my favorite tests.
Yeah, because we weren't sure, was it a causation or a correlation, right? Because you could make the inference. People that are willing to dig more and find the virtual tour they're more likely to go on the book anyway. So we didn't know if it was actually influencing. But yeah, when we put the virtual tours on the homepage and made them accessible and findable, it had an improvement in conversion.
How was it? You had to scroll down to a content block that had the virtual tours, or did you use them in the header? How did you do it?
It was just a section of content lower down on the page where we just talked about the accommodations in general. So, and just sending people to the virtual tours, calling it out. There's a balance and there's a science and an art to this, where when you're designing a website, you got to think about, okay, what are the big things that are going to have the most influence, and how do I prioritize those? Because you got finite real estate, and the last thing you want is your website to look like a NASCAR where you just slapped everything on it and it's just busy, and you get that overwhelming feel and you get the paralysis through analysis, kind of, whoa, what am I doing here? But one of the things, and this is another block and tackle thing, when you said, Adele, earlier, that why I don't understand why hotels don't do the basics sometimes. In addition to a room search, having a keyword search on your hotel website can have a massive impact. Not only can it help people find what they're looking for, the content they're looking for, what matters to them, but it gives you insight into what matters to people, and you can find what are the glaring misses. If I'm seeing a lot of people search for gym, for example, okay, the gym is what people care about. I need to bring that to the forefront, or I need to talk about it more. Or I know now that more people are interested in it. I need to invest in that as an amenity more. So just having a simple keyword search at the very top of the website can have massive implications on how you lay out your website, what content you create, and how you run your business as well.
I think people
rooftop yoga. That's a really good amenity. I highly recommend it, even if it's sporadic. It is such an attraction. It's unbelievable. But most people say that fitness things is one of the most requested but least used items.
Well, we all have intention, right? When we go on a trip,
Right.
This time I'm going to work out every day, and then Lauren gets you at the bar, and you don't leave until 1 a.m. and you're like, yeah, I'm not getting up in the morning doing that 3-mile run.
So true. But also, I think like people also want to spend more time outdoors, again, in contrast to the in-room experience. So, for example, I stayed at StOnge earlier this year, and they really highlighted that the entrance to a popular hiking trail was like at their doorstep. So I packed appropriately for that, and I went hiking rather than trying to seek out their in-room fitness. So having like in-location fitness activities, I think, is almost more of a draw and less of an expense, honestly. Like you market it a little bit, and that's really all you have to do. Maybe like provide some hiking gear for people who didn't think to bring it or something like that, using the hiking example. But if you can say, hey, there's this many walking paths. Are you a fitness enthusiast? Hey, pre-arrival emails. You could say, do you have a fitness routine that we can support? How do you like to work out? Like really getting personal and hospitality again and less transactional, I think is huge.
I agree.
Do they'll just set a time, say, okay, 6 a.m. every morning, we'll have a running group that meets here.
Right.
And you just need one staff member to be there, but usually you'll have enough, depending on, occupancy, you'll have 2 or 3 people to go and do a 3-mile run in the morning. It's
But I can't tell you like how many times I've gone, because I also enjoy yoga, as many people do. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten to a hotel and then found out that they have 8 a.m. yoga. Yeah. And I didn't bring any yoga clothes.
Or you missed it because you didn't find out on time.
Right, exactly. Like hotels in general, coronavirus or no coronavirus, like hotels in general do a poor job of letting people know what the experience will be like before arrival.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
very true. I was going to point out a tool that was that is on the market where you can create your own FAQ sheet, but I didn't want to get all geeky tooly about it. But there is a plugin that you can put as a WordPress doc that as people search for stuff, it'll find it on your site. So it provides a little bit of what you're talking about, Stuart, but then it'll also allow you to pull in from outside your website the most relevant content of your market questions or information and create a FAQ data set that's specific to it, that if you want to use it, you can, but it'll generate that kind of content development for you. So for those that might have not the bandwidth to be able to do the deep research for this, it gives them a little bit of a jump start to it. So I'll throw those in the show notes.
Like you literally within an hour of looking at your Google Analytics search data, talking to your reservationist and your front desk staff, you can compile
That's the key.
100 frequently asked questions. And then all you need to do is say, okay, I'm going to knock out 1 a week. And some of them are a paragraph and you've answered the question. But like you said, Lily, every hotel you stayed at recently, because you can't find the information, you've been calling them. That costs them time. It's inconvenient for you. And for every one of you, there's probably a dozen people that didn't book because they didn't have that question answered. So if they know that they're getting these questions and they're not answering them proactively in the appropriate place on their website, they're just missing a massive opportunity.
And let's be honest, we're savvy travelers.
Yeah.
Imagine people aren't.
Lily, were they chain hotels?
It was a mixture.
Because I find it very difficult to get robust information from a chain hotel website. That is just way too simplistic, and it's just, I don't know. I think that maybe the hotel feels disengaged somehow from that website. As opposed to
there's a limit to what you can do. Yeah, there's a limit to what you can do with the brand. But I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any brand says you're not allowed to send a personal email to your guests.
True.
Yeah. And also social.
If you can't support pre-arrival emails, literally just like get a list of arrivals in 3 days and manually send them that email with, you can create a template, have a night auditor or front desk agent do it. Like, you have people sitting around with not enough to do because your occupancy is below 50%, probably below 20 in some cases. You have no excuse not to use some of that time to improve it, because that's what's going to change you from being 20%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it's true. And going back to something earlier in our conversations about providing a different experience, putting the pieces to a jigsaw puzzle together, we know that come Christmas, internal exercise equipment for homes is going to be of interest for people. Cooking, appliances, things, because that is augmenting what our lifestyle has become for right now. Even through the transition process of what the future tense will be, those are of interest right now. Indoor grilling, air fryers, things like this. But exercise equipment like Peloton and things like this, there's a lot of exercise equipment that allows you to put stuff, plug it in. I don't know whether you've noticed this, but we watch these purely for the joy of seeing the scenery. But you can go on YouTube and ride a bike, okay? Through Florence, through Venice.
You can do the Tour de France.
You can do the Tour de France. And it's amazing because they do it in a way. They can do VR if you want to, but I'm not even trying to go that far. I'm just saying that they have this, and you can plug this into your systems and have it and literally watch it and pedal with them. They tell you the pace, they tell you the speed you're supposed to go, and you can kind of have a visual way of doing your exercise. Well, and I know this from firsthand experience, when we were over in the Netherlands, we were staying in a really cool little hotel, and it was a branded hotel. It was near a lot of the canals that were there and so forth. And in the morning time, there was a nice foggy mist and so forth. And we made it a point, after getting up in the morning with coffee, to just go take a walk along one of the canals that were nearby the hotel. And it was beautiful. It was peaceful. It was very local. And a lot of our hotels have that affordability, that capability, that if you have somebody on your team that can do this, it doesn't take a 360 camera. It takes just a video camera. It can take your phone and just ride the bike with the camera forward, or walk the walk with it. So if somebody's on their own treadmill or something, and give them that visual experience, not because they're going to stay with you, in the hopes that they eventually will. And if that day comes, they'll remember how much enjoyment it is that they could do that if they were to stay with you. You're really investing in the future tense of a lot of things. So just taking the pieces of current market as to what people are buying, what they're doing, what they're restricted to, what they wish to do aspirationally and so forth, you can do these things. You can walk right now, especially with the diminished traffic that are in a lot of the areas, walking every city has a downtown, well, not every city, but most cities have a downtown development area that had the cool restaurants, the cool retail, and it's quiet right now. Maybe a lot of those things may not even still be open, but a chance to quietly walk through and give them a chance to see those things is an exposure that is different than just having it in a bullet point list that says we're 0.27 miles from the XYZ shopping center. Well, what the hell is that? Instead, show them what that is. Anyways.
Take a video from the check-in desk, how far it is to the Eiffel Tower, or to see, the Empire State Building or Times Square or whatever it is. Just walk them to it. You see, 1 minute. 1 minute to time.
we even did that in a hyperlapse for some local restaurants for our Vancouver property, where we literally walked them out of the front door, but not make them wait the 5-minute walk to the restaurant. We hyperlapsed it so they went there. We said, hey, it's a 5-minute walk, but we hyperlapsed how to get there, and then we're in front of the restaurant. And there's, to your point, Adele, about New York, there's so many amazing restaurants that are there. They may not be currently open, but there's unique menus, there's secret menus, there's how do you orders. We went to a dim sum place that you sat in a little booth.
So
and the wall was in front of you. They opened up the little thing and they slide the little stuff out. We never knew that thing existed. We stumbled across it. And, and then, the one that we went to, Stuart, where we, just crazy, and show them the things that they could order, should order, what's really good to order when you're there. Just give them a literal flavor of what to expect or hope for to expect when they finally do get to make it back with you. Yeah, we blew up on dim sum that night, Stuart. We did.
At the marketing HSMAI Marketing Strategy Conference in January, which I wasn't at, but you can now view on the HSMAI website, which is by the way, a wonderful thing, and everybody should do it. TripAdvisor was saying that in the past 10 years, obviously this was January, so before the catastrophe, but in the last 10 years, how massively leisure travel has escalated in just that one decade. And I think that this is certainly beyond the blip, but I think that all the social media, all those dreamy visuals, all those little videos on Instagram and YouTube and TripAdvisor, all the reviews, all the Facebook sharing of all the magical places that people go to, I think has really just spurred the wanderlust of the world. And people want to be in those places more than ever. And if you want to be a part of it, you have to be contributing to feeding the beast. And, I'll go to when I know I'm going to go to a place, or if I'm thinking about whether I'm going to go to a place, even when I was thinking about moving, where should I move to that's going to be nearer to my parents, I went to YouTube. And I just took tours of Charleston and the area. And of course, the first thing that we did before we actually, started looking for an apartment is we called the realtor who took us around with the video and said, this is this neighborhood, this is this neighborhood, this is what I love about this neighborhood, here's the honest truth about this neighborhood. So of course he's the person I called, and I'm sure that he'll be the person that I buy with after I finish my first year one of rental. But that's the way to get your there and make those connections.
Can I tell a little story? This is not hospitality related, but this epitomizes what you're talking about, right? It's about being helpful in connecting with a person and building trust and stuff like that. So I recently moved because apparently everyone decided to move during a pandemic because we're all crazy, right? But one of the things, at some point, someone figured out from search history or whatever that I was moving. So there was a local company called Miracle Movers. I guess it's a franchise, I'm not sure, but I kept getting every day. I'd get 3 or 4 YouTube ads from this moving company saying, hey, we're a locally owned and operated company. We take out your moving needs. Like, it was a great commercial, really sold me on it. And I was like, okay, these are the kind of people that I want. I'm not ready to pull the trigger yet. I'm still shuffling around my schedule. Meantime, one of my coworkers, Pete, who's on the podcast, also moved. And he said, hey, dude, if you need a mover, I got this guy, local guy. He's been doing it for 30 years, but super good price, really good experience. Here's his business card, right? So these are the 2 people infiltrating me. So I had 1 touch point from the business card, and then I was getting advertised to 20 times a day, it felt like. It was just, and then I got a direct mail from the same company that was hitting me up on YouTube. So finally, the day came when my wife and I had figured out our schedules and said, okay, we need to call someone and come back. And I'm like, well, I got that business card somewhere, and I'll look at it later. But then I was on the internet. I get the ad again from these Miracle Movers guys. So I'm like, oh, there's the phone number. Write it down. Let me go and give them a call. I call them. No one answers the phone. It goes to voicemail. The voicemail box is full. So I'm like, well, I need to make a decision today because I wanted the schedule. So then I found the business card that Peter gave me, called them. The guy answered straight away, and I ended up using that guy. So one of them had a great experience. Word of mouth had gotten to me. The other guy spent a ton of money trying to target me. It worked. They got me, but then they didn't execute properly, and they lost
fulfillment.
Wasted all that money because they didn't execute properly. They didn't deliver on what they promised. So,
yep.
The life lesson right there.
Well, Adele, that goes back to what you first started the show with: fulfillment based on the personal interaction. Here, you created this persona of interest to come stay. You've highlighted all the reasons to stay. You shared all the things that they want, they need to know. They're really to act on it, and the first engagement with the product that they come across is, "Hi, welcome, number 27. Good to talk to you." You know, it's like, wow, and I just turned into a number. You know,
What a gap
and that's the part
between the expectation and the delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what you're preaching about, is like, you have to make sure that matches and excels even what they've seen and everything else. That personalization, that how can we make your experience everything that you wanted and more, and so forth, or your expectations, whatever, to exceed. All the things that you do is the critical part, regardless of the point of conversion that you had, Stuart, is like that they also live it. Because if they came in with high expectations based on whatever advertisement brought them there, you promised the moon, the sun, the stars, and if they didn't get it fulfilled from the people in firsthand experience, we all know there's a tipping point with our travel. We have we share two travel experiences. The one that we aspirationally share, like, boy, do we do this amazing thing. And then there's the real travel, what really happened to us, the stinky cab. But we didn't talk about it because, you know what, the trip was really cool. And we didn't talk about the stinky cab. But if everything went over the tipping point where everything was bad, the stinky cab comes back into it.
The song from
Yeah, smelly cat.
Smelly cat.
Yeah, smelly cat. But the idea of it is that then everything that you were ignoring gets added into the hopper to amplify your bad experience. Mm-hmm. Where it would have normally gotten ignored had the experience been good, but because you reached a tipping point that there was too much bad, now everything bad, even if it was moderately bad or even, inconsequential, now gets added to this hopper of, I'm going to absolutely talk about the travel from hell and this hotel and what they didn't do with it. There was paint chips off the wall. You know what? If you had an amazing experience, the paint chips meant little nothing. Yes, maybe you.
True.
Oh, it was really rustic.
Yeah. I noticed.
Absolutely true, because the hotels at the top are not necessarily the most opulent hotels. I mean, very often they're not, because the opulent hotels are resting on their laurels, and they're not really working for that continuous improvement. But the guys who are really working hard every day just to make people happy, it may be a hotel that's 100 years old or more. It may be, it may have certain quirks,
Quirks,
and you embrace those quirks.
It's how you sell it. There was a case study, I forget the property, but I remember reading this. This is several years ago now, but there was a property that was struggling because it was it may have been in New York, and it had very small rooms. And so a lot of the criticism on social media was the rooms were too small. So they flipped it, and they started talking about cozy rooms on the website. And hey, we might not be as large as others, but here's where we so that they set expectations, and they turned the negative into a positive. People look forward to being in these cozy spaces, and their reviews went through the roof.
20 years ago, when the Library Hotel opened, before it was open, and I was going around to all the travel agencies and corporate accounts that I knew of and telling them, we have 3 types of rooms. We have the petite rooms, the deluxe rooms, and the junior suites. And I remember having people say to me, Adele, you are a very bad marketer, because, people are not going to book a room if you call it petite. And I said, but they're small. So I'm going to tell them that because they're going to be surprised and unhappy if they get there. But if I tell them, look, this is the honest to God truth of this room, but it's got high ceilings, it's got beautiful windows, it has everything you need. And we have this huge club room to use as your living room and the lobby and the writer's den and the poetry garden, and all of those are your living room spaces. And you know what? I mean, they were the hottest ticket. The petite rooms were a blessing to us revenue-wise because it let us give a lower rate as a little entry point to attract people to try us, and then they would switch up. And it was super.
We have one client that had very small rooms as well, and we would be honest with people. It's like, this is our smallest room, and I said, they would actually go over and say, look, the end of the bed is the beginning of the armoire. It's, you can open the door and it's going to bump the bed, and they were like, well, that's awful, really small. It's like, first off, A, New York, get over it. 2, did you come here just to stay in the hotel room? No, so shut up. We wouldn't be that rude about it. We're just like,
I heard your bed manner was a little better than that, but yeah,
it was a little bit better than that. But actually, what I bring it up for is because one of the coolest restaurants I was working with, dirt floors, peanut shells. It was back when I was in my restaurant days, and everybody tried to compete with us. Everybody tried to take our clientele away from us, and our slogan was "Warm beer, lousy food," and our servers were top notch because the thing of it is. They give a beer and be like, hey, this is a little warm. She's like, the waitress would be kind of fun, like, some of these restaurants that fed off this like Dick's. It's like, hey, be lucky you got one. And as a joke, obviously she'd swap it off. It was warm, but, it never was warm. It was just a way of dialoguing back and forth. But that person never ran out of beer. They always knew what they wanted when they, we always knew what they wanted when they came in. We had so many regulars. The TVs were on. So other restaurants would try to open up, and they had the little sound speakers in the middle of the table. They had the super polished floors with the pseudo local stuff on the walls to act like they've been there since the beginning, but they didn't. They just bought stuff. People know that stuff. I mean, I'm talking about the Applebee's of the world, really. And we were that really local place. And the other restaurants always try to take our clients away from us, and they'd be coming back, and like the TV is on for football. And if anybody wanted to hear what was being said, they said, "Hey, shut up!" They would hear this. That camaraderie, that local feel and flavor, the people made that. The staff made that. The people made that. The food was good. Was it great? It was bar food. But you got it when you ordered it. We knew what you wanted when you usually came in with it, and we always knew who you were when you did. It was like the norms of Cheers and all that kind of stuff compared to the other bars that were. Food might have been better, beer might have been colder, the audio may have been better on the TVs. It might even have better TVs for you, but it was all checkbox. Hi, welcome to blah blah blah. And it was very functional, not very personable. So yeah, it helps a lot. We are blew through our time.
Over.
Yeah, and thank you very much because I've had massive technical issues by doing this from home today, and I apologize for all those. We will be rebroadcasting this better than probably has been simulcasted today. On all the channels again, just because I think we had a stumbling at the beginning where we had audio issues. I think we still have audio issues in a couple of the channels. So we'll do a rebroadcast of this tomorrow, Monday. And then, of course, we'll do our standard rebroadcast for our APAC and EU friends on Wednesdays at their time slot times and so forth. But thank you for keeping me company today and adding much more to the conversation than I did by far. So I know with Melissa, you are the brains of the operation for Fuel Travel. Stuart is the eye candy. He's the sexy beast. So Melissa, if people want to know about Fuel Travel and your award-winning podcast and all the super cool things we do with your super cool deluxe booking engine that allows you to go over and do keyless entry and all the other super cool stuff.
This is what we need to call it.
Deluxe.
Yeah, because that word's not overused in the hotel industry.
No, it's not at all. I say super spiffy is a better choice. Just go super spiffy.
Not on the not on the software side. I haven't really heard it used, so we could lean into the irony of it being used.
No, then do super duper deluxe. Do super duper deluxe. Yeah. So Melissa, if people want to know more about you and Fuel Travel, where can they go?
FuelTravel.com. It's where all the things are.
Melissa's not a salesperson.
That's not my job.
Melissa is a doer.
That's it.
He is.
Yeah. I need this house built today. She doesn't ask about the paint color. She wants to know what the framing is. Well, I'll leave it to Stuart then. Stuart, all things fuel travel, and you. Where can they find you?
Fueltravel.com.
No, can't get out that easy. There you go.
Yeah, if you want to go to a deluxe booking engine or a super cool mobile app with a contactless check-in or state-of-the-art AI-powered CRM, we got you covered. We also do marketing services. We've been getting a lot of new SEO clients recently. I think a lot of folks, really the hot items are the SEO, the CRM, and the mobile app. People are refocusing their efforts, and it's about time. We've been preaching this for years, but how do I maximize my own assets? So instead of having to pay and rent space on Google with paid ads, how do I get people to come organically to my website? How do I leverage my email database to maximize direct bookings, reduce my reliance on those pesky OTAs? That seems to be where the growth is right now. So if you're interested in any of that, or if you just want to listen to us cut up about cool stuff and make marketing sound fun, like we do here on the Fuel Podcast, you can do that at fueltravel.com. And I will say...
Sorry, I just lost my audio.
We can still hear you.
You're going to have to close everybody else up because I can't.
Okay, I'll close everyone out.
I have no idea why.
But we're going to be watching, we're doing a watch along with the Social Dilemma on Netflix. So if anyone wants to watch that and then come listen to the podcast that's going to be coming out next week or so, then they should do it. But if you haven't seen The Social Dilemma, go watch it because it's scary as heck. And it makes you rethink what you're doing.
I'm super excited about this episode.
Yeah. So Lauren said he couldn't hear anyone. So Lily, you want to tell us what you got going on and where they can find you?
Sure. So we are at tcrmservices.com, also known as Total Customized Revenue Management.
Guys, go ahead. I've lost audio, so go ahead.
With excellence. We got you. And also at thinkofenterprises.com, where we do revenue management, consulting, sales, marketing, and revenue convergence, and all things profitability. And also where you can find the Revenue Management Podcast, which we have a new fun episode coming out about how revenue management and operations affect each other with Antoine Berberi next week.
Wow. Synergies between different departments in hospitality.
What?
Adele,
there we go. I'm back.
Yes, you please link in with me, Adele Gutman Milne, as how I am known on LinkedIn, and visit my website, which is aspirereputationmarketing.com. You can sign up for a free reputation assessment and an initial consultation. I've been spending the last 20 years coaching hoteliers to have unbelievable 5-star reviews, really transforming the culture of the hotel so that everybody is performing at their best. And that social proof, that reputation is really what drives traffic to your website, conversions, ADR, and it is really the foundation of any sales and marketing plan. It is not a footnote for the end of your sales and marketing. It is what everything else relies on. So if you need help, I am going to be so happy to help you. So I hope to hear from you soon.
And there's no one better in the business than Adele at this. You were in a very competitive market in New York, and you didn't just have the number one spot, did you? What kind of results?
Yeah. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 in a row. And then 10 years later, still number 1, number 2, and number 3. So and that's with so many opulent new hotels opening. And we just stay right on top because it's a system that works.
Yeah, I think that's the difference, right? There's a lot of people who come and talk about doing things, but you actually operationalize it. You give people tangible, real things, a step by step on how to accomplish it. So it's great.
Thank you, Steve.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Did we do it, Lily, already, and I missed it, or we good?
Lily, yeah. So it's just you left, Lauren. Tell us what you got going on.
Well, I was born a small child. No. Okay. So for this episode and all previous 268, you can go to kavanagh.com/live. Look for episode number 269. As I mentioned, we will simulcast this on Monday to make up for my technical inefficiencies today. And also we will simulcast it as usual on Wednesdays, 11:30 a.m. Sydney time for the APAC group, and also 11:30 a.m. London time for the EU group. We do translate this in 11 languages now in the closed captioning. So if you feel like you can help with that, or it helps you understand a little bit of the psychobabble that we have from time to time, that'll help. I do want to make an announcement that I'm a little bit behind on. There is a platform that we are rolling out that's called hospitalitymarketing.club. It's a closed membership for resources. That is a layer in between. I don't want to spend too much time talking about, other than to say that if you're interested in a little bit of needing authoritative advanced help, true advanced help, not general basic training, not general basic, this is PPC, or this is social, or this is how you create a Facebook account. Facebook can teach you Facebook, Google can teach you Google Ads. We are talking about advanced understanding of how to use these platforms in a strategic way, specifically and only for hospitality. How do these things work? It's more of an advanced conversation we see here on the live show. It's a more how-to than what you're seeing here on the live show. We're here, we talk about things. It's going to be more specific. It is a membership group that is going to be closed. The content's going to be closed. And if you're interested, you can go to hospitalitymarketing.club. There you can just give us your email so that we can get back to you once we open. You get first dibs on the initial offer that we're putting to for people to get signed up. If you cannot pay, if you are unemployed, or you're just looking to make sure that you have access to this, also use that email and let me know that you're in a position this is something you can't pay for. We're going to include you. Sorry. We're never ever going to exclude anybody, but we'll make sure that if you feel like the resource is valuable to you and you're in a position that you can't afford it, don't worry about it. Join us. We really look forward to the chance to be able to help anybody and everybody in the hospitality industry. Of course, if you can, that makes it all the better for me to entice people like Adele and Lily that I can give them money. So Stuart's too busy. Stuart, I'm going to try to bribe him.
I have nothing valuable.
Sexy pictures and stuff.
I have nothing valuable there.
Yeah, so I just can't get him in the loop. I just can't tease him enough with the idea. So I'm going to have to blackmail him, which I'm working on. I'm working on some blackmail stuff, Stu, as you know. So, anyways,
you've never shown anyone those photos, so I hope you stand by.
Well, now I'm calling the chips in. But anyway, so thank you everyone for joining the show today. Thank you very much for the dialogue and the information. Of course, obviously, this is show number 270. Next week we will have a guest co-host, Peter Russell from Russell Associates out of London. He has a new P&L forecasting tool that is pretty darn cool. And it's very much a sign of the times as to what can be used for. So I'd love for everybody to come back in and participate in the conversation with it. That will be 11:30
on the show for a change.
Well, it's better than you from New Guinea, I guess. But we'll take the language.
I will have you know that I was practicing my Britishisms this week. I literally yesterday morning I literally had tea and crumpets for breakfast. So
get out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now you need to.
And we've missed our other British contingencies,
Stuart, that you can send out for other people to make tea and crumpets.
Yeah. And we missed our Scottish. We missed our Scottish contingency of Tristan and Ben. I mean, they're true blue Scots.
Please keep going.
They're gonna love that, right?
No, they're
gonna love that when they see this.
Speaking of missing people,
they're gonna chase me down just to hurt me.
I do have to let you know that I will unfortunately miss probably the rest of October, but I will be back just in time to discuss the results of the election, should we choose to make that a topic of the show.
Let's hope it's a positive conversation.
Yes. So I will miss you all, but you can always get in touch with me on LinkedIn.
Yes, by all means. And Lily, I will be getting in touch with you for some different stuff. But yes, thank you again, everyone. Melissa, thanks for jumping in with us as always. You definitely brighten the conversation, and as well as Adele and Lily. Stu, okay, fine. And yes. Anyway, so until 11:30 Eastern a.m. Next Friday. Thank you, everyone, and we look forward to seeing everyone next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.